Hey, what's up? So, one of the areas in my life where I actually do feel very successful is gonna be my relationship with my wife. And we've been married for about 5 years, together for about 10. So, obviously, there's still a long way to go and a lot for me to learn. Another caveat is we don't have any kids, so there's a lot less for us to argue about. With that being said, I do feel like I have some tips and tricks that would benefit one to leading a more successful relationship. And the first tip or trick, I think, is going to be making sure you pick the right person. And that basically means making sure you pick someone that has very similar values to you. And usually, I think about values when it comes to marriage. One of the most important ones is about money, right? Like how you spend money, whether or not you like to save money. Do you like to go on vacations? Do you like to splurge on things? I think that's a very important aspect that needs to be talked about and understood before going into a long-term relationship, because that's going to really affect your marriage. And I'm not saying one value set is better than the other. I think it's just kind of how you're raised, right? It's very difficult to change your mindset on like values. It's kind of just what you're used to. And I'm not saying that if someone has a wildly different value set than yours, it can't go well together. But there's just a lot more opportunities to be in disagreement and a lot more friction about everything. Whereas if you have someone that has the same value set as you, then it actually makes it a lot easier. There's a lot less to argue about. The second thing I think is most important is to make sure that you don't have arguments that last a long period of time. Typically, I don't like to have arguments that last overnight, right? Or one person's mad at someone else for a long period of time. Usually arguments, I think you should resolve it right then and there. And if there's a disagreement, you can talk about it, but don't have one person be mad at the other person where they're like giving them the cold shoulder for like a long period of time, like overnight or lasting days. I think that can lead to a very petty relationship where you start keeping score or start keeping track. Oh, she was mad at me last time for like 2 days. Now I'm gonna do it to her for 2 days, and I think it becomes very petty. And I think it's kind of missing the point. So I think just having a rule of thumb where you don't argue or you don't go to sleep mad, I think it can help a lot. Another aspect I think is very important is having just default trust, right? So always default to you trust that person no matter what. So there's never any suspect of any funny business going on, and that should just be the default, right? Because no amount of snooping or whatever is gonna overcome just having overwhelming trust for that person. That being said, on the other side, you should never be in a position where you're in a scenario where something shady could possibly be going on. But I think just default trust should always be the solution. That leads to another thing where you should also be able to have your own privacy, right? So obviously have your own passwords, have your own bank accounts, have your own whatever privacy you need, where you don't have to share it with the other person. But just because that extra layer of trust is there, then you're allowed to have those things, right? I think it can get very unhealthy if you start suspecting someone of something, you start going through their stuff, because you're gonna start thinking about worst case scenario, and you're gonna start like, I don't know, you're gonna start like having it come true in your mind even when there's nothing there. So I think just having a blanket trust is very, very essential to having a good relationship. Another thing I think is a little bit more simple, but I think it's overlooked a lot, is just to regularly show love or show appreciation. And I think when you are together for a long time, those things could get overlooked, but just regularly, I'm talking about every day or every week, just making sure that the person knows that you appreciate them, right? And you can, depends on, I don't know what people's love languages are. You can show in different ways. But you could just say to someone, hey, I really appreciate you. Thank you so much for, XYZ. And I think that goes a long way. And just getting in the habit of doing that, I think would make yourself and also obviously your partner a lot happier. So those are some tips and tricks. I think there's some more, but I think those are the basic ones I think would cover. Hopefully it makes sense. And yeah, hope you found this useful. Thanks.